Good morning everybody, this is part 2 of writing a newspaper report today. If you're anything like me, you'll have the start of a newspaper report already done. You should have by now the name of the newspaper, the headline and the first paragraph, just giving me a general overview of what the report is about. That was our lesson yesterday. Now today we're going to move on, and a newspaper report needs to, these are the things I reminded you of yesterday, be about an interesting event, capture the reader's attention, present factual information, as we talked about the highwayman being fiction, but you're presenting it as if it is fact, and it must be succinct and to the point. Yesterday we had a look at the headline and byline, and then we talked about the lead. Now the lead was the name for that first paragraph, where I tell everything in 2 or 3 very clear sentences. Today we're going to go on to the next section, which is the body. Now the body is where you go back to the start and you retell everything in more detail, much more detail. So you say when, you say how, you say everything that happened. For a good body section, you need to add more information and detail to your lead paragraph, include background information, evidence, facts and quotes from people involved in or connected to the event and story, and you need to continue to write in order of importance. Remember, each thing comes in order of importance in a newspaper article, so tell the stuff that's the most important bit first, and then the things that are the least important later. Having quotes from witnesses, we can do that a bit later. I actually do that in my tail section. Be sure to use correct punctuation for quotes as well. Here is my body section. The highwayman has been going up and down the highway, killing and robbing unsuspecting travellers for years. His reign of torment is now finally at an end. It turned out his fatal weakness was Bess. For some months the highwayman had been known to frequent the old inn. He was seen with Bess by an ostler called Tim, who informed the authorities. King George's men came into the old inn looking for Bess to question her. In a bizarre twist, Bess was tied up to a gun during questioning. King George's men are running an inquiry to find out how she was able to get hold of the trigger to warn her lover with her death. Later the next morning, the highwayman, enraged by Bess's death, charged back down the highway, hoping to kill the soldiers responsible. He was shot and killed outside the old inn. Apparently, the highwayman was screaming Bess's name as he died. So, all I've done there is go into much more detail on everything, whereas in the first paragraph I would not have gone into the details of how Bess died and what happened with King George's men and what happened with the highwayman later on that time. I've said it, but I haven't gone into detail. So the second bit, the body, is where you go into much more detail on everything. At the end of it, there's a part called the tail. Now I said before, the tail is where I would expect quotes and things like that. This is where you give the least important information, or you say what's happening now. Here I've used speech. Here is my tale. Tim, the ostler, said, "This was not what I expected to happen when I informed King George's men about the highwayman. An innocent girl has been killed by negligent soldiers. I hope the inquiry uncovers what went wrong." We spoke to the landlord, who said, "I am heartbroken and devastated. I was betrayed by Tim the ostler, who didn't speak to me at all about his concerns for my daughter. But worse, those stupid soldiers came and tied a gun to her. They are the ones responsible for my daughter's death, and not the highwayman." Here I've used what's called direct speech. When I use speech marks here, or in an article technically they're quotation marks, to give actually what the character said. Direct speech. The other version of it is reported speech, and reported speech is when you say what somebody has said but not their exact words, and you don't use speech marks. Okay, so that's what I expect you to end it with. Maybe a couple of interviews. Tim the ostler and the landlord are probably the ones that I would pick. Finally, I'll just remind you, get it right. For a great newspaper report, you need to keep your most important information near the top of the report, keep your sentences short and punchy so that the report is interesting to your reader, cut out the less important sections from the bottom of the report if it ends up being too long, and finally, check your spellings. Make sure that your spellings, your punctuation and everything that you have used is absolutely perfect. Read it through. Make sure you read it through and double check everything you've written makes perfect sense.